Hey listeners, Jenny here, and I have an invitation for you. Here is an opportunity to learn from somebody who fumbled their way into a full recovery from debilitating chronic illness, so I can show you exactly what it takes to get yourself into recovery without the fumbling mistakes that I took so long to learn from. If you're suffering with a chronic illness or hitting burnout, I know you want to feel energized, pain-free, and safe and trusting of your body. But if you keep fighting and pushing your body, overriding its signals, without learning how to be self-compassionate, to prioritise and listen to your body's needs, so you have lifelong and sustainable change, then you're not only going to stay sick, but you're likely going to get sicker and struggle more. There is another way. In this free workshop, 10 Steps to More Energy Without the Flare-Ups, I'm going to show you a radically different approach to your recovery, so that you can get your energy back and stay well for good. What would you do with your energy back? What would your life look like? All you need to do is save the date right now, 16th of September, and then head over to jennyadamscoach.co.uk/energy and join the priority list. Once you do that, there will be a bunch of support, bonuses, and case studies to help you along your way between now and September. Once again, that's jennyadamscoach.co.uk/energy. I'll see you there. In this episode, I'm speaking to Sayeeda Alam, who is a yoga teacher and an Ayurvedic lifestyle advisor who I've known for a few years. Like me, she also has a history of ME, CFS, trauma and ADHD and considers herself over 95% recovered from ME, CFS. We talk about her journey, the importance of acceptance and surrender when trying to recover from a chronic illness, slowing down and going inwards, the catalyst to what made her start making positive changes towards recovery, and how important inner safety is. She talks about how living an aligned life with yogic and Ayurvedic principles have supported her to live a healthy lifestyle now. Enjoy the episode. Thank you for tuning in to the Calm Your Nervous System podcast, where you will learn to regulate your nervous system, not just calm it. I'm your host, Jenny Adams, and I'm a somatic coach who has recovered from debilitating ME and trauma. Alongside my guest experts, I'm here to share tips, stories, and debunk jargon, what is somatics anyway, about how you can regulate your nervous system so you don't have to live with chronic illness, burnout, or debilitating trauma for the rest of your life. A joyful life is possible. So welcome to this week's episode. We're actually on location. So I'm here with Sayeeda and we are down in Devon at the moment in a wonderful static caravan. So if any of you are watching on YouTube, you might see the lovely view. We've got the Devon coastline behind us. And I'm here with Sayeeda and we are going to talk a little bit about, well, your history, your story. So obviously we've known each other for a few years now, but I think there's been a lot that we've been learning recently that our paths have crossed.
I think so.
Quite a lot. So first of all, welcome. Well, thanks for coming on. And I'd love to hear a little bit about, your story. I know you've had chronic fatigue, ME. So yeah, tell us.
So how far back do you want to go with my story?
Well, yeah, good question. Let's see where we go. And I think let's probably focus on where was the worst point in your chronic illness?
Okay, all right, yeah. So I think a little bit, because I think it's relevant, I got diagnosed first of all with endometriosis in 2016.
Okay.
And I had surgery for that. I had got diagnosed with mild endometriosis. It was quite a quick onset as well. I was quite lucky that I got the diagnosis within about a year of me experiencing extreme pain, which is very, very quick. Yeah, very, very quick. So after that and after the surgery, that's when I started to notice some signs and symptoms of it creeping in. But it wasn't until about maybe a year and a half afterwards where things started to really progress and get worse. And it started with just me having to go to sleep or feel like I needed to rest in bed every afternoon. But the time when it got the worst was probably in 2020. So actually quite a long distance away, like 4 years, I think, it kind of progressively got to its worst point. And when the COVID hit and when the lockdowns happened, it was really, really, really severe. And for me, severe, I mean, I could do some basic things. I could still hold my job down and still work bare minimum. Like I would teach a yoga class and then I would just be sat on the sofa for the rest of the day. Could do basic admin, but most of the time I was pretty much housebound.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, I just got by on what I could, you know.
Yeah.
And if I could go shopping to get my food, I could, but then I just have to sit down again for several hours, you know.
So everything cost you that?
Everything cost me, yeah. 100%.
Yeah. Yes, and I've been there myself, with, like, just about holding a job down, but like, where's your quality of life?
Oh, you don't have any.
It's just survival, isn't it?
100% survival, yes, yeah.
Do you think the COVID lockdowns kind of triggered anything or had an effect on you?
Yeah, 100%. Before the lockdowns, I had quite an active lifestyle. I was weight training. I was practicing physical yoga quite a lot. I was, you know, very social. And all of those things I had in place were helping me with my addiction recovery. I'd had those things that really helped my mental health, etc. So when the lockdowns happened, obviously all of that was taken away. So then the mental impact of what that had, and then the working together of everything, because there was no way to get out of it, you know.
Yep.
Just trapped in the body, trapped in the sensation of pain and discomfort and not being able to do anything about it really, really took its toll. So yeah, it was very, very hard. And I think that it got worse because of the COVID, definitely.
Yeah.
Not because I had it, but because of the whole scenario around us.
Yeah. So the mental aspect of not being able to go out impacted your health.
I felt quite oppressed, and the control was a big thing for me. It kind of triggered a lot of my trauma and all that as well. So yeah, it was challenging.
Yeah. And it's interesting because, you know, I hear this a lot in the community of people that have chronic illnesses, and I used to think this myself, that your mind has nothing to do with your physical illness. And you have a physical illness, it's not all in your head.
Yeah,
I'll say that again. It's not all in your head.
Yes.
But what's going on and how you're mentally affected, it impacts your physical health as well.
100%. Yeah, I couldn't be any more in agreement with that. It's tricky to realize that, I think, when you're in it, right?
Oh yes,
because it's so easy to get caught up in the discomfort of it all, because it is horrendous. So yeah, but yeah, there's a strong link. And I think, I mean, I've noticed now with my training through Ayurveda that Western medicine fails to see this link quite a lot.
Yeah.
And this is why I turned to alternative medicine to help me heal from it. And it worked.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yes. And I would love to hear more about, like, what did work for you? What helped?
Yeah. So first and foremost, it's obviously a long process, isn't it? And I was still kind of working out and everything when I was getting, my symptoms were getting worse. So first I had to stop. I stopped everything and just had to, you know, surrender to the process of being like, right, I need to change everything about my life.
Wow, that's huge.
Because you do, really. You have to change everything. And I guess I'm kind of fortunate because I've had to do a lot of that anyway in my life through going through addiction recovery. I had to change everything. And I've kind of like rebuilt myself up many times after quite severe mental health episodes. So doing that isn't necessarily a new thing, doesn't make it any less challenging, of course. So stopping was the first thing. There was a lot of mental things like acceptance, because you can't fight it. The more you resist it, the more it's going to be a problem, right? So there's that acceptance, the surrender, like I mentioned. And then I think just mindfulness. Mindfulness was a huge thing for me, knowing when I was doing too much, knowing when I had to stop, knowing what was okay and what wasn't okay. So there was a lot of micromanagement, I guess, for a long time.
And how did you know that? Like, how did you know what was too much and what was okay?
Well, in the beginnings, I didn't really know because it was so severe that it didn't really matter what you did.
Everything flared up.
Yeah. There was no space for it to there was no respite. It's just there all the time.
Yep.
So you have no concept of what is okay and what's not okay because you don't know what feeling well feels like anymore, right? So yeah, what was the question now?
What helped you recover?
How did I recover? Thank you.
Just for context, we've both got ADHD.
Yeah. So recently diagnosed. So
we'll go down rabbit holes and forget things. I laugh about it.
mindfulness. I was going to say walking slowly, right? I was the kind of person that used to be in Tesco's or on the street, and if people were walking slow, I'd be like, come on, I need to move. And then I had to train myself to walk so slowly and mindfully.
Okay.
If I had to do things, if I had to do my shopping, because I've lived alone quite a lot, I didn't have any extra support, so I had to do those things to survive. So yeah, walking slow, walking very, very slow around Tesco's. And it's been quite eye-opening. Sometimes I walk with other friends and they're just like powering off. They're like, oh, sorry. I'm like, yeah, slow down, man. What time have you got to be there? Like, let's just tone it down, you know? So walking slow. And then when I got deeper into the Ayurvedic stuff, so I started learning about the sister science to yoga, which was always quite an interest of mine. And I found some people online called the Ayurveda Academy who do some online courses. So you're just learning, first of all, the basics of Ayurveda, more so as a way in to learn about who you are, who your nature is, and how diet, lifestyle, stress management tools can help you live better. So Ayurveda is a preventative tool for health, but also it can help cure disease. So learning about that then really kind of like put me on the journey of healing physically through this as well as mentally. And I had to make, again, some quite profound changes. I was vegan for 7 years.
Oh, wow.
But through learning about Ayurveda, I introduced meat back into my diet. And that was a huge, huge level up for me. It was like the energy just went.
See, that's crazy. Then this is where we have to tune into ourselves, because I'm the opposite. As soon as I went vegan, I was like, way, someone's put my batteries back in.
Yes.
And it's not the right diet, full stop. It's like, what's right for you.
Exactly.
And your body.
And this is why, and you know, like I mentioned about the Western medicine model, which of course has its place. I'm not debunking Western medicine entirely, but it fails to look at the person holistically.
Yeah.
It fails to take into consideration all of the other aspects of life that might be affecting a person. And this is what Ayurveda does at its basis, right? And instead of like providing some sort of medication, it will be like, well, maybe we could just take something away and then you'll come back into a sense of balance. You know, sometimes you need to add, but again, it's all natural stuff. It's like, what other things can we do here?
Yeah.
And habits as well can also affect our life. And yeah, so Ayurveda was a huge one. Also, you know, just lifestyle changes, relationship changes, moving house, like environmental issues like that. So yeah, there was a long list of things which helped me on my road to recovery.
And would you say you're fully recovered now? And if so, if not, what would you consider recovered to look like?
I would say I'm about 95 to 97% recovered.
Okay, so mostly then.
Yeah, mostly. I mean, and that's actually quite up there.
Yeah.
Because my strength levels are nowhere near where they used to be.
Okay.
Right? I can't do as much physically. But for me, the way that my body feels is I don't feel like I have disease in me anymore.
Okay.
I don't feel ill, right? My recovery time is much quicker and I'm being more consistent with movement practices and swimming and things like this. So I think that I'll be, you know, fully recovered when I've gone 6 months without having any form of like relapse of fatigue.
Okay.
That's kind of like my marker.
Yeah.
And I hope that I can regain some strength back to where I was, where I can lift my weights again, and, you know, and work like that. That would be really nice. But at the same time, I'm just like, I'm alive and I don't feel ill anymore. I feel like I can just do my day and it not be such a discomfort, draining chore.
Yeah. Yeah. And how much gratitude do you have now for like, just the little things? Like we were sitting on the beach yesterday and it's August, it's the UK, it has been very wet and windy, but the sun came out yesterday and we were just sitting on the beach like, oh, this is bliss.
Yes.
And it's those little things that you just don't fully appreciate.
100%. And I would never take the feeling of being well again for granted.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So if you've never been through anything like this, don't take it for granted. Like, count your blessings every day that you haven't had to experience what it feels like to go through CFS.
Yes, because it is not pleasant, as I'm sure some of you listening know. So I hear from a lot of people, there's a lot of fear and worry around movement, and especially with ME. And I know that I think the NICE guidelines have now taken out graduated exercise therapy.
Right, yeah.
Because, I mean, the studies were pretty flawed. So, yeah, I hear, and this is part of my experience of my recovery, I hear so often that movement has been a fundamental part of people's recovery.
Yeah.
So what would you say to the people that are just scared of movement?
I think you have to start really, really small, and you have to literally go baby steps, as if you're just relearning yourself and your body again from nothing. And, you know, for me as a yoga teacher, I had to stop all physical practice. Every time I got on a yoga mat, I'd have a panic attack.
Wow.
Because I was that scared, or, you know, because I couldn't even be in my body.
Yeah.
Being in my body was too traumatic. And obviously as an inward practice, it just wasn't working. So I had to stop, which was also another mental challenge, of course. And it's, you still just have to go slow. It's like, if you go in and do a little bit of movement, wait 3 days, see if you have that post exertion come in. And if you haven't, okay, great. Don't push it and then go out and do like double the amount, right?
That's enough.
Consistency. And then maybe wait another 2 days and go and do the same thing again.
Yeah.
Right? Build slowly. And just, like we said, try and find the gratitude in the small bits that you can do. I mean,
yes.
I'm still building up to that now. I'm swimming maybe 3-4 times a week sometimes.
That's amazing.
Just 10 lengths, you know. Sometimes they're very slow lengths. I'm just walking and pretending.
But if you're getting in the pool,
that's it.
Because I find going swimming, I can't be bothered because it's the getting dressed and the doing your hair, and it's not just the swimming, but it's all the other stuff that comes with it. So if you're doing that 3 or 4 times a week, that's amazing.
Yeah, and it feels good. And actually, I think the water for me has been quite therapeutic. Just to be in the weightlessness and the flowing of it all makes my body feel good, you know. So I've just kind of run with it.
Yeah. And I think that gratitude is such an important thing, because I remember speaking to a client last year, and she came to me and she was barely able to walk, and then a year later she's walking, and she was saying to me, it's really annoying, I can't keep up with my grandkids, I can't run. And I just have to remind her, you couldn't walk a few months ago.
Yep.
Appreciate every step you can take.
Yes.
Like, literally you have to learn to walk before you can run.
Yep.
You're still learning.
Yeah.
But you can do these things now.
Yeah. There are so many lessons to be learned with having this illness. You know, that compassion of where you are at, and trying not to compare yourself to anyone else, and the acceptance is huge, you know. And I guess not attaching ourselves to something else outside, or something else which is different to what our current experience is, right?
Yeah. And what was it? Because you've talked about this sort of like moment of change and the acceptance and the surrender. Like, what one day made you go, okay, something needs to change here and I need to learn to accept this?
I'm not sure I can put my finger on it. I think I just didn't want to feel like I felt anymore.
Okay.
So I knew I needed to do something different to what I had been doing.
Okay. And it was the change of I need to do something different.
I need to do something different.
Yeah.
Because what I'm doing right now isn't working for me. So I'm clearly not serving myself in the best way.
Yeah.
Because I'm hurting myself by continuing to do what I'm doing.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It makes perfect sense. And I know that can sound easy to say, but that can also be really bloody hard.
Oh, God.
Because you have to question your own sanity.
Yep.
And your own reality. And if this is all you've ever known, who am I?
Yeah.
What do I do with this?
Yeah.
And also it's taking responsibility in a way of, can I do anything to help myself? Have I helped myself get here? Can I help myself out of it?
You know, I found that especially challenging because before I became a yoga teacher, I mean, I didn't look after myself very well. I was obviously an addict for a long time, from my teenage years up until my late 20s. So I didn't exercise. I didn't have any spiritual practices. You know, body work was just whatever. You know, I was putting just a lot of crap into my body. And so once I found yoga and started this whole new way of life, that very much became my identity. I was like, this is who I am now. And I've got to a place where I never thought I could have been, right? I've created this whole persona. And then bang, you know, this illness hits and I have to let it all go again. And it coincides so well with the yoga teachings about not attaching, like I said, you know, non-attachment, because I was attached very much to that persona of being a yoga teacher and, you know, someone who can lift heavy weights and blah, blah, blah. And now it's gone. And now I'm suffering because I've attached myself to who I was, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's interesting as well because so many people like me, they've almost completely changed their life in a way of, I was this, I've gone through this illness, and now I'm going to teach something holistic.
Yeah.
But you've almost like been the holistic teacher and you've got ill and you're still doing the teaching.
Yes.
But it sounds like it's just got a lot deeper.
Oh, very much so. Yeah. I wonder what it's been like for my students.
Oh, yeah, because if you've got people that have seen you through that whole journey.
Through the whole journey.
Wow.
And how my classes used to be quite physical and strong and doing some crazy stuff. And now, throughout when it was the most, challenging time for me, they became very mellow, very low, because I didn't have the energy to teach as, the strong stuff. They love it now. Like if I do a hard class, they're like, just go back to where you were. like it's too difficult. We're like, okay, all right. But yeah, it must be interesting to watch and see. And all of the kind of lessons that I'm teaching about mindfulness, right? And are you serving yourself? Are you coming from the right angle? It's like, what are you doing? Is your brain just doing what it thinks it needs to be doing? Or is it what you really need? Because a lot of the time we kid ourselves into thinking we know what it is we need. And this is why we maybe stay ill for a little bit longer, because we're just resisting it, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
And can you talk a little bit about what yoga is to you? Because when I was ill, I used to have people come up to me and they're like, oh, you should just try yoga. And to me at the time, not understanding, I just thought yoga was a physical practice. It was all about flexibility. I'm hypermobile. I'd always go to class. I had no strength. I'd overstretch myself. And I'm like, yoga doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
But the more I've spoken to you and learnt, yoga is not just the physical practice.
No.
So what is it that it mean? What does it mean to you?
Well, it's funny that you asked this question, because in my head, I'm like, it doesn't matter what it means to me, because yoga is yoga. Mm-hmm. So,
okay, what's your interpretation of yoga? I'll ask it a different way.
Because what is my interpretation of yoga?
To the person that was probably like me, that's like, it's just about being stretchy.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's about it's a self-awareness. It's a journey inward to realize what your true nature is. Mm-hmm. And at the essence, the true nature, which is within all of us, is pure consciousness. Mm-hmm. So it's about sifting through all of the illusions and the things that get in the way, whether it be identity or material possessions or things which we think are going to make us happy, etc. Mm-hmm. And just getting back to pure awareness. And how we do that is through mindfulness and introspection and going inward. Mm. The physical poses are just one aspect of how to use it as a tool to get there. Okay. Of course, there are other benefits of the physical poses, etc., like purification of the body. They keep the body strong. In order for us to reach spiritual realization, we have to have a strong, healthy body, right? And Ayurveda is in line with that. It's like, in order for you to do what you need to do in this life, you have to be free of disease and well enough to be able to fulfill that. Yeah. Yeah.
So for somebody that sees yoga as like the warrior poses and the sun salutations and all of that, and they're like, I can't do that, that's too much. Could they still do yoga?
Yes, of course.
And what could they do?
Many, many things.
So give us some.
Sure. So
if you want to share.
So if we want to engage in like a practice, then yoga nidra is the most accessible practice for everybody. Mm-hmm. It's not physical. You lie down and it's a guided meditation, if you will, where we do a body scan and various visualization exercises. And it's a really great way to kind of go into the mind and explore the various layers of consciousness. Some pretty cool things can happen when you get in there and you practice enough and get good at it. So that's one thing. I mean, breath work, we'll call it pranayama. That's the correct term. A lot of people call it breath work, but it does originally come from yoga, which is pranayama. So yeah, that's a very accessible way to
And
practice.
what would that look like?
So there are many different forms and types of breathing. For people who, are suffering with chronic illness, probably just mindful breathing, conscious breathing would be the best point of call to work with first, which is just becoming aware of your inhale and exhale without necessarily even wanting to change it. Yeah. And then if you want to work up to just exhaling longer, this is going to help calm the nervous system down, work with the parasympathetic and your vagus nerve, etc. And then, of course, you can progress on to things like alternate nostril breathing is a good one for most people to be able to practice.
Yeah. I've done that before.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah.
Because you have to use your finger, don't you?
Yeah, there's like a couple of positions that you can put your hands in, or like this. So, yeah. But you can also just do that visually, so you don't necessarily have to do it physically as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's some good things. Meditation.
Yeah.
Going inward.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, there's all these other types what aren't even practices, but you can call them practices, karma yoga, helping out, volunteering, doing things for other people.
Yeah.
Okay. There's the knowledge of yoga. Yeah. The yoga of knowledge. That's what I mean, where you can go and just read scriptures. You can learn about yoga in a more educational way and get some insight that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's a good few things there that people can get started in that aren't just like your warrior poses.
100%.
So that's so interesting to hear about all of some of the many aspects of yoga and what it is. Because I literally had a sticker on my mobility scooter when I was ill that said, "Yes, I have tried yoga. No, it didn't work." Sorry. Because I used to get asked this all the time. Gosh.
That is brilliant.
Because I'd gone to the classes and I was like, this isn't for me. But I'm curious with the vastness and how you teach it as well.
Well, I'll be honest, if you're working with a body that has a lot going on, you need one-to-ones because in a group setting, it's not going to work because it's so individualized. You need to know more about the person, what's going on, what you can and can't give them.
Yeah.
So if you want to start yoga and if you're not well, then yes. Yeah. Get one-to-ones if you can.
Yeah. Is that something you offer?
It is, yeah.
And online?
Yeah, I could do online and in person as well.
Amazing.
So,
and obviously you understand the limitations that come with chronic illness and all the stuff.
Yes.
So yeah. I kind of wish I did that because I didn't realise at the time I was hypermobile and my joints were just all over the place.
Yeah.
And no one mentioned it.
Yeah. Because
it's in some ways kind of celebrated in some types of yoga.
I think so, yeah. It is. This whole flexibility thing, like why? Why do you want to be so flexible?
Like my arm will fall out.
I always say sometimes my students see me in a pose and they're like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, look, once you've got so far, you can't go anywhere else. Like it gets pretty boring. There's nowhere else for you to go. Yeah. There's no more sensation. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah. And when you're hypermobile as well, you often don't feel until you're at end range.
Yes.
And I'm probably sure us movement folks, end range is when you get injured.
Yes, exactly.
You don't want to live there all the time.
No.
Might look cool for Instagram.
Yeah.
But it's not going to serve you really, is it?
And what's the point? Like, what's the intention behind doing that?
Exactly.
Is it because you want to look a certain way?
Yeah.
And then it's that attachment, we're coming into the aesthetics and the outward projection of who we think we are as a yogi because I can get into the splits.
Exactly. Like I go trampolining try and go every week. And there's half of the place is trampolining, half of it's gymnastics. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of younger people, a lot of teenagers there. And the teacher there is always like applauding them for like how flexible they can be. And like how much you can wrench your spine around and like they're all doing the splits and I'm just sat there just like I could do these things but I'm not going to.
That's it. Because
it's not serving my body.
That's it.
Might look good but then I'm going to hurt tomorrow because I've overstretched myself.
Yes.
And then what's the bloody point? Because no one cares if you're looking backwards like a blooming owl.
And then you're not looking after yourself, are you?
Exactly.
And if we want to be kind to ourselves. And in that scenario, you wouldn't be if you were just going to your deepest point of the pose.
No. But then I can see how people get conditioned into...
Of course.
The longer, the stretchier, the better.
Yeah, and it's not their fault.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a society-wide thing.
Yeah. And like we've had the Olympics recently. I don't know if you've seen any of it, but like there's one video going around social media which makes me laugh. And it's like gymnastics in 2024 and then like gymnastics in the 1980s, and it's going for like the millennials and like how it is for us to buy a house back to like our parents in the 80s, and it's comparing the two, and it's like in the 80s they just kind of pranced around and like it looked cool, and now they're like doing 400 backflips in the air, and it's just like it's got so crazy. I mean, it's incredible to see what people can do, but just the level of growth and expectation is just like, oh wow.
It's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, like the Olympians in the 80s probably wouldn't even qualify today.
No.
Which is just mad.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So going back to your ME, chronic fatigue.
Yeah.
We've talked about this before, and it'd be interesting to hear, what is it that you felt like, and if you did, do you think trauma's had an impact on that?
100%.
And you don't have to go into what happened in the trauma, but what impact do you think that's had?
Well, I think I have been chronically stressed since the day I was born.
Okay.
Probably since the day I was born, or from a very early age. I didn't realise I was anxious until I was about 25.
Okay.
When I ended up in hospital.
Wow.
With symptoms of a heart attack.
Oh shit. Wow. Okay.
I'd just flown to Malta, and I was out of breath carrying my backpack. I was having pains in my chest and pains up my arm. And I arrived in Malta. I told my friend about it. She's like, I think we need to get you to see somebody. So we went to the pharmacy, said, what's going on? He's like, you need to go to hospital. Sounds like you're having a heart attack. So
at 25?
At 25.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah, so I went to the hospital. The one time I didn't get travel insurance.
Oh no. The one time.
Luckily, because Malta used to be part of the Europe, something to do with Britain. I can't remember.
The EU?
Yes. that thing.
Before Brexit.
Because you had a British passport, I luckily got it all for free.
Oh, that's lucky.
And I had a lot of stuff, X-ray, CT scans.
Wow.
I was in for 24 hours. Yeah, the conclusion, he was just like, are you stressed? I was like, well, that was just my baseline.
Yeah.
All I had ever known was that state of stress. And I have rarely felt safe because of the traumas I've experienced. So yeah, huge, I think. And all of the years of that just building up and me masking those feelings and emotions with drug use to numb the pain, etc. And then I read Gabor Mate's book. Realm
of Hungry Ghosts?
No, the one about...
Body Says No?
No.
Scattered Minds?
No.
Myth of Normal?
Yes. Thank you.
His whole biography there.
Yes, I need to read Scattered Minds, obviously. Yes, that one. And then I was just like, wow, okay. All of the links between endometriosis and the CFS and sexual trauma. And I was just like, okay, it's huge. And I've mentioned to you before that I've seen my ME as a way of my body allowing all of the trauma to come out from the depth of my nervous system, so to speak, And there was a sense of it, flowering, if you think. That's the only way I can describe it, that it was all kind of trapped in a bud.
Yeah.
And then over many years, it kind of like worked its way out of my system, even to the point where I had like eye issues and stuff, where the final bits were kind of like coming out of my skin.
Had to manifest as something physical.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So, and I think viewing it in that way has been very helpful for me, because it's just been like, right, it's just a process then. And then I can kind of like move on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the amount of people that have also been told that their ME is not curable and you just have to live like this.
Same thing happened to me.
And this, I mean, obviously I'm in this space of chronic illness, but there's so many people I have witnessed, I have heard about, that have recovered.
Yeah.
And I used to think the same. And I think when you've got that belief that you won't get better, you won't get better.
Well, that's it.
Because you hold on to it.
And I refused to take that statement.
Okay. Oh, wow.
And this is twice now I've done this.
Yeah.
The endometriosis, they said, yeah, you're going to be like this for the rest of your life. And you just need to manage your pain, etc. Off the back of that, that's when I went vegan. And I've pretty much eradicated it. I get very minimal discomfort.
Really?
Yeah, very minimal pain. It's very rare. So that's a bonus. And then, yeah, when I got my diagnosis, I used this because she was kind of like, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I guess you've kind of got it. And I was like,
blood test are normal. Can't find anything else.
Exactly. So you must have, really, if you think you've got it. And yeah, she said the same thing. Yeah, well, you're going to be like this for the rest of your life. And at this time, I was really suicidal. I was telling her on the phone, I'm suicidal. Like, I can't deal with this. And she told me in that conversation, you're going to be like this for the rest of your life.
Wow. Jeez. I'm sorry you went through that and you were not dealing with someone who was trauma informed as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
If only doctors and medical professionals were trauma informed.
I know.
Because, yeah, what a sucker punch to give you.
Yeah, it's really hard.
In such a vulnerable place. And then did they offer you any support?
None at all. None at all.
Here's a lifelong...
That's it. Off you go. Bye-bye. And after that, I asked to see a specialist. And I spoke to somebody else on the phone, and I knew there were specialists available in Bristol, maybe Taunton as well. And I got told on the phone that there aren't any specialists at all.
Really?
As in, like, they don't exist.
Oh, wow. Bristol, like Southmead and Cosham's got a huge pain management department.
I know.
I used to volunteer there.
Right. So then that was it. And I just got, there you go, off you go.
Wow.
Deal with it on your own. And that's what I did. And I didn't accept what she said. I wasn't going to take it. Because I would not have been here. I didn't want to live. My life was going to be like that.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
Wow.
It's not worth living. So I had to get better.
And what a huge shift from hearing that news and literally being suicidal to then fully accepting that and turning things around, because there's so much fighting talk in like, I need to get rid of this. And then it becomes an enemy. It becomes a thing to get rid of. And then you're like, I'm not accepting that because I want to get rid of this thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's incredible that you've managed to work your way into the acceptance.
Yeah.
And I know for myself, like, the sort of catalyst of that change was when I accepted it.
Right.
But that was hard work.
Mm-hmm.
And it got to the point of like, I was in my mid-20s. I'm like, I don't think I'm going to have kids. I'm just going to have to accept that this is it and I'll make the most of life. And it was almost as soon as I said that, and I was like, actually, I will use a wheelchair because I can go out then. And then as soon as I did that, oh, I'm out. I'm enjoying life.
Do you know what? That's really interesting because I'm remembering that a very similar thing happened to me. I was with my previous partner and I had been like housebound for a couple of weeks and it was summertime and I just wanted to go outside. And I said to him, I said, please, can you go and get me a wheelchair so that I can go outside and take me down the beach, right? And it was just like, okay, acceptance. I can't walk, like, so, but I need to go outside. And then things started to kind of change.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's something in that shame of like, oh, you're young, you don't need a wheelchair. What's it going to look like? What if I bump into someone that I know and they're going to ask questions? And am I that ill? I can walk a bit sometimes. But like I spoke to a client a couple of weeks ago and within like the week, the week before, she was like, I can't leave the house. I can't do anything. The next week, she's like, I've been to Leeds. I've been to York. I've been to visit my son at uni. I've walked the dog because I bought a mobility scooter and I feel bloody great because I've gone out.
That's it.
And sometimes you kind of need to take that step back, accept the help.
Give yourself the support that you need.
Yeah.
That's looking after yourself.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
You have to be your own parent through this.
Oh, yes.
Which again is a challenging thing to do, especially if you've been through trauma, because you've generally got that inner critic in you or that not very nice parent that's shaming yourself, right?
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Accepting and just honouring. I need some help sometimes.
Yeah.
Like no one is supposed to do everything on their own and support everyone else. Because, you know, I certainly have that tendency. I see that in clients. I don't know about you, but, you know, I'll do everything for everyone else.
Yeah.
And then you're bottom of the barrel and there's nothing left.
It's generally, yes, the way it's gone with me as well.
Mm-hmm. And you've got to put yourself first.
You have to.
Like you probably know, we've just turned our house into an Airbnb and we spent the last 2 months basically building an annex, clearing out pretty much all of our belongings, sorting through everything, doing a load of like building work. I've also been running a business.
Yep. I
was working in another job at the time, like a lot to manage and having ADHD and going through all of that a few months ago, well, no, probably a few years ago, I'd have just been in a hole. Just, I can't do it. It's too much to do. And I had to be quite firm with my partner and say, I need to go out and go to Pilates. I need to go out and see my friends. I'm going to go see my mum and go for lunch. Like, I'm going to go do the things that top me up and energize me so I can then do the stuff at home.
Exactly.
But for years, I was the other way around.
Yeah.
I have to earn my rest.
Yep.
Earn my downtime.
Yeah.
It's like, no. That tops me up. You got to look after you first. And then the other stuff just happens.
Well, this is exactly what I've just done this morning by cancelling my class tomorrow and staying another night down here because I'm having such a lovely time and realised that I didn't realise that I needed this break more than what I thought I did.
Exactly.
So, yes. Yeah. Sorry, students, but I need to look after me right now. So,
and this was just one of those random, like, universal little meeting points of you texting me being like, I really feel like I need a few days away at the coast. And I was like, actually, I've got a caravan booked at the coast for a week and I'm not going to stay the whole week necessarily, but I kind of want to. Do you want to come? Yeah, cool.
And now here we are recording this podcast, which is kind of even cooler.
Yeah, exactly. So another question then.
Yeah.
Obviously this podcast is called Calm Your Nervous System, about regulating your nervous system, not just calming it. So What does healing, regulating your nervous system mean to you? I know you talk about the vagus nerve often.
Yeah. For me, it's all about a sense of safety. Actually, now, I mean, I use the vagus nerve a lot for myself, my own practice. So in the pranayama that I do, it's all based around parasympathetic nervous system regulation. So I'm kind of moving into that state as best as I can. I do a lot of stretches in my yoga practice that also contract and extend the vagus nerve to kind of move in and out of that state. I use a lot of yoga nidra as well, but my environment is a huge thing for me. This is something which is coming up for me most recently. I've got quite severe noise sensitivity, which is due to my ADHD, and causes me to have quite bad meltdowns. So I'm having to move back in with my mother to stop this from happening so that I can just look after myself again. It's like looking after myself in the right way. So, but again, there's so many other things involved. It's eating the right food, having the right company, taking the rest,
supporting yourself in all the ways.
Supporting yourself in all the ways that you can so that you can just live well and feel good.
Yeah. And I think it's learning what's right for you as well.
You have to learn, yes. You have to get to know yourself. You've got to make friends with yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. Like we've had the conversation about mornings routine.
Yes.
And I'm like, I don't do anything before 10 a.m. And I used to feel a lot of shame for that because, society isn't run on that. It's like the 5 a.m. club. Got to get up early. Got to do things. I don't function like that. My body wants to wake up at 8:30 and slowly wake up. And I felt a lot of shame for that. But I'm like, no, that supports me. Yeah. And if you get up earlier,
which I do,
you do you.
I do, yeah, exactly.
You get up early, and do your thing.
Up and out, I'll be happy to be ready to start the day at 8 a.m. if I can. Yeah. That's what makes me feel well,
Yeah.
So, and that we're all different.
Exactly.
This is it. There's no one size that fits all. You have to find your own way through this.
Yes.
And understand that it's not just going to be one person that's going to tell you the be all and end all. You need to bring lots of things in from different places and find what works for you.
Yeah. And I think that's probably why if you look strictly at the medical model, they can't quite put their finger on why so many people are recovering because it's not necessarily a thing. I personally believe the safety, as you've mentioned, and finding safety in your body and your nervous system is a huge part, but how you do that can be done in different ways.
Yes.
And that can be done in like talking therapy. I think somatic movement practices are incredible. Diet.
Yeah.
Like there's all these different ways. So many of us have trauma, big T or little t, understanding that, unpacking that so you don't have to carry it so long. But like it's your own little blueprint of what works right for you.
Yeah, totally.
And that's why it can be nice to almost have like, I say this as a vegan, a cheese board of like
smorgasbord.
Yes. Of all your like, well, what works for me? Oh no, I don't really like that, but I love that one.
Yes.
And just picking and choosing,
and they'll change over time. And having that flexibility to be open to that is very important as well. Because what worked for me 7 years ago doesn't work for me now, and that's going to keep evolving and changing as I evolve and grow. So we have to be okay with that.
Yes, 100%. So finally, what would you say to somebody who's listening, who is struggling, or maybe to you a few years ago? What advice would you give them?
Oh gosh,
big question.
It is a big question. It's a really big question. Be kind to yourself. Don't beat yourself up for this, right? And just nurture who you are. And look after you. I don't know, just like hug yourself, right? Like I'm getting the sense of like here in the chest and the heart space. So yeah, that's it. Just go easy on yourself.
Yeah, that's one of the first modules I teach in my membership is self-compassion.
Yeah,
because and I say this in a harsh way sometimes, if I said to you, you're undeserving, you're a horrible person, you're a piece of shit, like why should you bother? You're not enough. And then I said, do you want to work with me? You'd be like, no.
Exactly.
Why would I trust you?
Yep.
And if we're telling ourselves the same messages, there's that disconnect.
Totally.
Mind and body again.
Yeah.
So be kind. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good message to leave on. So thank you so much for coming on. If anyone is looking to find you, where would they find you?
Many places. So my website, I'm sure we'll put the link down in the
we'll put the
description.
Link in the show notes.
I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Insight Timer, where I've got all my free yoga nidras, which you can access. You can get those whenever you want and listen to your heart's content. So we'll link that down as well. Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah. Instagram,
I said that, didn't I?
Yeah.
Yep. Facebook. Yep.
Cool. So have a look in the show notes because there's lots of places where you are. So yeah, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
And we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you for listening to this episode of Calm Your Nervous System. I hope you found the conversation as interesting as I did. If you would like to start healing your nervous system, I have a free energy diary available just for podcast listeners, which will really help you see your blind spots about how you're spending your time and your energy. Find it at jennyadamscoach.co.uk/podcast. Find out more about me and somatic coaching in the show notes below. See you next time.